The patrol ships drifted silently across the dark void, their engines humming like faint whispers against the background of endless stars. It was a routine night for the fleet. They were used to long hours of watching, scanning, and waiting. Most days, nothing ever happened in the far reaches of human space. The universe was wide, cold, and empty. But tonight, something changed. On the edge of the system, sensors began to blink red. A strange object appeared near the dying glow of a collapsed star. At first, the officers thought it was an error in the system. The signal was too big, too strange, too impossible. But as the readings grew stronger, fear began to rise inside the command room. The scanners revealed a ship. Not just any ship, a warship so massive in advance that the human fleet had no words to describe it. Its surface gleamed with sharp edges and smooth plates of black metal that seemed alive. Strange, glowing lines ran across its hull like veins of fire. Blue light burned from its engines, brighter and stronger than anything human engineers had ever created. The crew stared in silence, their eyes wide. This ship did not match any known design, not human, not alien. It looked centuries beyond anything that should exist in this era. Some officers whispered to each other, voices shaking. They asked the same question again and again: who built this warship? The ship moved slowly, gliding with perfect control. No signals came from it, no attempt to identify itself. It was just there, a silent giant watching them. The admirals on the fleet's command ship froze, torn between fear and awe. One of them muttered the words that echoed through the room. This warship shouldn't even exist. And yet it's here. Soldiers and engineers scrambled to compare it against every database in human records. Nothing matched. No human nation had the technology to build something like this. No alien empire had ever shown designs even close to this level of advancement. The warship was not from this time. That was the only explanation. The silence of space felt heavier now. The fleets that once felt powerful and secure suddenly looked like toys. Their ships, armed with weapons that had kept humanity safe for centuries, now seemed weak and outdated in the shadow of this impossible warship. Even the largest human battleship looked like a small child standing next to a giant. The ship's hull shimmered faintly, like it was bending light itself. At times it almost seemed invisible, its outline fading as though reality itself could not fully hold it. Scientists whispered that it might use technology far beyond cloaking, something that manipulated space around it. If it wanted to, the warship could vanish at any moment. And yet it did not attack. It just floated, watching, silent. That silence was worse than 1,000 cannons firing. Every officer in the command room kept their eyes on the screen, waiting, dreading the first movement of those glowing weapons. Questions filled the air. Was this warship sent by humans from the future? Was it built by aliens as a warning? Or was it something even darker? An ancient machine finally waking after centuries of sleep? Nobody had an answer. Minutes felt like hours. Tension pressed down on everyone. Ships in the fleet whispered across channels, their crews nervous, their captains afraid to make the wrong move. A single command could start a war that humanity was not ready for. Some officers suggested retreat, pulling back to the inner systems and leaving this thing alone. Others argued that such a ship could not be ignored. If it was hostile, it must be destroyed now, before it decided to strike. But deep inside, they all knew the truth. Nothing they had could touch this warship. Its armor was too strong, its weapons too advanced. Its very presence a reminder of how fragile humanity still was. The admiral stood in silence, staring at the screen. His voice was steady, but everyone could hear the fear behind it. He ordered the fleet to hold position and observe. There was no need for reckless action, not yet. Curiosity and dread mixed together in his chest. This ship was a mystery, but it was also a warning. As the crew continued to watch, lights flickered across the alien hull. Not random, not meaningless. It was a pattern, a signal. For the first time, the warship reached out. The message was silent, unreadable, but everyone in the command room felt the weight of it. Something was being said, and humanity was about to hear it. The warship slowly turned, its massive body shifting with perfect grace. Its cannons glowed faintly, not enough to fire, but enough to remind everyone what they were capable of. The fleet held their breath. No one moved. No one dared to even whisper then. Without warning, the strange signal filled the comm system. It was not in any human language, not in any alien one they knew. The sound was sharp, distorted, but behind it was intelligence. A voice of something that was not supposed to exist yet. The officers worked desperately to decode it, hands flying across controls, sweat running down their foreheads. The room fell silent again when the first clear words appeared on the translator's screen. Words that shook the fleet to its core. "We are what you will become." No one breathed. The meaning of those words tore through every soldier, every officer, every scientist in the fleet. The ship was not alien. It was human, or at least, it claimed to be. A warship from the future, sent back into a time where it did not belong. The Admiral tightened his grip on the edge of the console. His mind raced with possibilities. Was this true? Was this a trap? Or had humanity just been given a glimpse of its own destiny? The warship remained silent after that, drifting with slow, deliberate motion. It did not fire. It did not vanish. It only waited, as if daring humanity to decide what to do next. In that moment, every soul on the fleet knew one thing for certain. The universe had just changed forever, and the impossible warship was only the beginning. The command room was filled with silence, but it was not a calm silence. It was heavy, tense, and alive with fear. Every officer, every soldier, every scientist inside the fleet's command ship stared at the giant screen. The impossible warship remained outside, floating in the void like a silent god. Its words still echoed in their minds. "We are what you will become." The Admiral stood stiff, his hands gripping the edge of the table. His face was calm, but his eyes betrayed the storm inside him. He knew what his crew felt. They had trained for war, for battle against pirates, raiders, or even alien fleets. But nothing had prepared them for this. "This ship," whispered one of the younger officers, her voice trembling. "It should not exist. Admiral, this is not human technology. It cannot be." The older scientist shook his head quickly. "No, look at the design. Look at the patterns in the signal. It is human. It's us. Just not us yet." The room grew restless. Some officers argued in low voices. Some wanted answers. Others wanted to fire every weapon at once, to prove that humanity would not bow to fear. The Admiral raised his hand, and the noise slowly faded. But the fear did not, the scientist continued, his voice slow and careful. "Admiral, if this ship truly comes from our future, then it means something has forced us to build such a weapon. Something terrible. Perhaps a war we cannot even imagine now." Another officer slammed his hand against the table. "Or it means we're being tricked. This could be an alien machine using our language to deceive us. How do we know it speaks the truth? How do we know this isn't the first step in an invasion?" The Admiral closed his eyes for a brief moment. Both arguments made sense. Both were possible. And that was the danger. They did not know the truth. The warship's glowing engines flared faintly, sending a cold blue light across its armored skin. Its guns turned ever so slightly, not an attack, but enough to remind everyone of their power. The human fleet felt small, weaker than ever before. Their ships, built with the pride of nations, suddenly looked like fragile toys before this giant. In the far corners of the room, whispers grew darker. A few captains suggested retreat. "We should return to Earth," one of them urged. "Tell the leaders what we saw. Leave this thing behind. Let the higher councils decide." But others shook their heads. Retreat was dangerous too. If the warship followed them, it would find the core worlds, the heart of humanity. Leading it home could be the end of everything. The Admiral finally spoke, his voice deep and steady. "We cannot run, and we cannot attack. This ship is beyond our power. If it wished to destroy us, it would have done so already." His eyes narrowed. "The question is not what the ship can do. The question is why it is here." That question hung in the air like a blade, Another officer leaned forward, his face pale. "Admiral, what if this ship is not here to help us? What if it is here to judge us?" The thought spread quickly through the room. The warship had said it was what humanity would become. But what if that future was not something good? What if it was darker, crueler, and this was only the first shadow of it? Fear began to twist into paranoia. Could the ship control minds? Could it already be influencing them? Was this all part of a plan to weaken humanity from within? The Admiral watched his people carefully. Fear was growing too fast. Panic was dangerous. Panic could break a fleet more quickly than any enemy fire. He spoke again, sharper this time. "We are soldiers. We are explorers. We do not bow to fear. We hold the line until we understand what we face. No one makes a move unless I give the order. Is that clear?" Reluctantly, voices answered. "Yes, Admiral." The silence returned, but it was not comforting. It was the silence of soldiers holding their breath, waiting for the universe to move again. Outside, the warship began to shift. Its glowing lights pulsed in strange patterns, faster now, almost like a heartbeat. The communications team scrambled to catch the signal again, to decode what it was saying. Every second felt like a countdown. Suddenly, the translator flickered alive. Another message appeared on the screen. "You are not ready." The words froze everyone in place. Not ready for what? Not ready for the future? Not ready for the enemy this ship hinted at? Or not ready to survive what was about to come? The Admiral clenched his jaw. His thoughts raced. If this warship was telling the truth, then something far worse than this ship itself was coming. Something that made humanity in the future. Build monsters like this just to survive. The scientist spoke again, almost in a whisper. If this ship is here now, then maybe the war it spoke of begins now too. The room fell into a deeper silence. For the first time in years, the admirals and captains of humanity's fleet felt truly powerless. They were not just looking at a ship. They were staring at the shadow of the future. A future that was racing toward them, whether they wanted it or not. And as the warship hovered in the cold darkness of space, silent and waiting, every soul in the fleet asked the same question inside their hearts. Was this ship their savior? Or their executioner? The warship floated like a silent predator in the black sea of stars. Its glowing lights pulsed slowly, as if breathing. The human fleet held its position, afraid to move closer, yet unable to look away. Every officer, every soldier felt the same cold thought. This was not just a ship. This was a message from the future. The command room was heavy with tension. The Admiral stood tall, but inside he was torn. The mysterious words echoed through his mind. "We are what you will become." It was a promise, or maybe a threat. And now another message had appeared. Sharper than a blade, "You are not ready." The fleet had choices, but none of them felt safe. Attack, and they would be destroyed. Retreat, and they would reveal weakness. Stay still, and they would remain helpless under the gaze of a ship that could erase them with a single shot. Finally, the Admiral gave the order. "Open a channel. Let's see if this warship will speak to us again." The communication officers moved quickly, hands flying over controls. A signal was sent, simple, cautious. A request for contact. For long seconds, there was nothing but silence. Then the giant ship's lights pulsed brighter, and the comm system filled with static. A deep sound, like thunder rolling through empty space, echoed in the speakers. At first it was only noise, broken and strange. But slowly, words began to take form. The translation system struggled, letters shifting on the screen until finally they formed a sentence. "You will face them soon." The room froze. Soldiers exchanged nervous looks. Scientists leaned closer to their screens. The Admiral's face hardened. "Face who?" he demanded. "Who are you talking about?" For a moment, there was no reply. Only the glow of the warship's engines, shining like blue fire in the darkness. Then the voice returned, calm but heavy, as though carrying centuries of weight. "The others, the enemy. They are coming. We are here because you are not ready for them." Gasps filled the command room. An enemy? Another alien race? Something powerful enough that even future humanity had to send a weapon back in time. The officers whispered in fear. Was this warship here as a warning or as bait? The admiral kept his voice steady. If you are from our future, then why now? Why here? Why reveal yourselves? The ship's lights flickered again. The voice answered, colder this time, because time is breaking. Because the war begins sooner than it should. You must choose, prepare, or perish. The message ended, leaving only static. The giant warship remained silent, drifting like a shadow above the human fleet. The crew struggled to process the words. Fear and confusion spread quickly. One officer whispered, Admiral, this could be a trap. An alien trick to divide us. Another shook his head. No. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be gone. This ship has power beyond anything we know. It could destroy us with one strike. The admiral raised his hand, silencing them. His mind was racing. He needed more answers. Try again, he ordered. Send another signal. Ask them who these enemies are. Comes team obeyed. Once more a beam of data shot toward the mysterious vessel. Seconds passed. Then the reply came short, sharp, and terrifying. They are older than your son. They will not stop. Chill ran through the command room. Older than the sun? What kind of enemy could that be? What kind of war awaited them in the shadows of space? The admiral clenched his fists. Show us proof, he said firmly. If this warship is from the future, then prove it. Show us what we face. The room went dark. Every screen flickered at once. Images flashed, blurry, chaotic, filled with fire and destruction. Fleets burning. Planets shattered. Creatures unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. Tearing through space with weapons that bent reality itself. The crew gasped in horror. Some turned away. Others froze, unable to breathe. These visions were not just warnings. They were battles. Battles that humanity had already lost. When the screens cleared, the warship's voice returned, calm and merciless. This is your future. Unless you change it. The command room erupted into chaos. Officers argued. Some shouted that they must prepare immediately, build stronger fleets, unlock new weapons. Others insisted it was a lion illusion to make humanity afraid. The admiral stood motionless, staring at the screen where the warship floated. His mind burned with questions. If this ship was from the future, then why was it alone? Why had no fleet come with it? Why send only one warship if the enemy was so powerful? As the arguments grew louder, another message flashed onto the screen, cutting through the noise. Test us. See the truth. The warship began to move. Slowly, its massive cannons rotated and locked onto a nearby asteroid belt. Blue energy gathered at the tips, brighter and brighter until a single beam erupted. The asteroid field shattered instantly. Rocks the size of mountains were sliced apart like glass, burning into nothingness. The fleet fell into silence again. No human weapon could do that. No alien weapon they had ever seen could do that. The warship had just demonstrated power that defied reason. The admiral exhaled slowly. He understood now. This ship was not here to ask. It was here to force them to believe. But still, one question refused to leave his mind. If this warship truly came from the future, then why did it look so alone? The voice returned one final time, low and distant. We are the first, but not the last. Prepare yourselves, or everything you know will burn. The communication cut off. The warship went silent again, its lights dimming as it drifted into the void. The fleet remained frozen, caught between fear and awe. The admiral knew the truth. First contact had been made, but it was not a meeting of peace or even war. It was a warning, a challenge, and a promise of horrors yet to come. And now, humanity had to decide whether to believe it or to stand unprepared when the darkness arrived. The warship had gone silent again, but its presence was louder than 1,000 cannons. It hovered in the void, watching, waiting, as if daring the human fleet to act. The officers in the command room whispered nervously, their minds filled with the terrifying images they had just seen fleets burning. Planets shattered, enemies older than the sun. The admiral stood stiff, his eyes locked on the monstrous ship outside. It had shown them visions of war. It had demonstrated weapons that no human scientist could explain. And now, it waited, like a teacher staring at a frightened child. The science team worked furiously, scanning the alien hull, trying to learn anything they could. Readings filled their screens, lines of data flashing faster than they could process. One of the younger scientists suddenly froze, her eyes wide. "Admiral, the armor. It's not just metal. It's alive." The room went silent. All eyes turned to her. She pointed at the screen, hands trembling. "It's regenerating. Every time our scanners touch it, the hull shifts slightly, correcting itself. It's self-healing. If we fired on it, the damage would repair almost instantly." Shiver ran through the command room. Human ships needed hours, sometimes days, to patch battle damage. But this warship could heal itself in seconds. That alone made it nearly unstoppable. Another scientist added quickly, in its engines. "Admiral, they're bending space itself. They're not pushing the ship forward. They're pulling the universe around it. That's how it moves so smoothly. That's why it seems to glide without effort." Murmurs spread through the crew. This was technology beyond their understanding. The admiral's jaw tightened. "You're saying this ship ignores the very laws of physics as we know them?" Scientist nodded. "Yes, Admiral. It shouldn't exist. And yet it does." The warship's lights flickered again, as if it had heard them. Suddenly, a beam of energy shot out not as a weapon, but as a transmission. It hit the command ship, and the screens filled with symbols, diagrams, and strange designs. The officers gasped. It was sharing information. The translator worked furiously, decoding what little it could. The diagrams showed weapons cannons that bent light into blades, missiles that folded space around them, shields that could absorb entire barrages. One screen showed a human battleship, then the same ship enhanced with this technology. Its power levels skyrocketed, its weapons glowing brighter, its armor almost unbreakable. The crew stared in disbelief. It was as if the warship was handing them the keys to a new age. But then the message changed. New diagrams appeared daily in ships, monstrous and twisted, covered in spikes of black metal. Weapons that tore holes in reality itself. The message was clear. This technology was not a gift. It was a warning, one officer whispered. "They're showing us what we need to survive. If we don't take this technology, we'll be destroyed." Another officer shook his head quickly. "Or they're tempting us. What if this is the trap? What if they want us to build weapons so powerful that we destroy ourselves before the enemy even arrives?" The room filled with nervous voices. Some saw hope in the blueprints, the chance to save humanity from annihilation. Others saw danger, a path that could lead to humanity's corruption. The admiral raised his hand, silencing them. He stared at the diagrams on the screen, his eyes hard. "This is knowledge we are not meant to have. If these designs are from centuries ahead, then using them now could break everything we know. Technology without wisdom is a dangerous thing." The warship's voice returned, cold and final. "Knowledge is survival. Refuse and you will fall. Accept and you may endure. The choice is yours." The room grew still again. The warship was not only a warning, it was pushing them, testing them, forcing them to decide their path. The admiral turned to his officers. "Can we copy any of this?" The scientists nodded slowly. "Some of it, yes, not all. Much of it is beyond us. But with time, with research, we could adapt parts of it." A dangerous spark lit in the eyes of several captains. If they could unlock even a fraction of this power, they could rule not just humanity, but the galaxy itself. One whispered under his breath, "With ships like that, no enemy could ever stand against us." The admiral heard him and narrowed his eyes. Power was tempting, too tempting. This was exactly the kind of thought that could tear humanity apart. The warship's lights pulsed once more, as if reading their thoughts. "You are divided. You are weak. But there is still time to prepare. We will show you more. Then you must choose." The screens shifted again. showing something even more terrifying. A planet green, alive, filled with cities, then a shadow falling across it. Alien ships descending like a storm. Beams of fire tearing through the skies. Cities burning, oceans boiling, millions of lives ending in seconds. The planet was reduced to ashes in less than a minute. The crew recoiled in horror. Some turned away. Others clenched their fists in silent rage. The Admiral stood frozen, his heart pounding. This was not only a warning, it was a glimpse of what could happen to Earth itself. The message ended. The warship dimmed its lights and drifted back into silence. The humans were left alone with their thoughts, their fear, and their new knowledge. The Admiral's voice finally broke the silence. We stand at the edge of something bigger than all of us. If we embrace this technology, we might survive what is coming. But if we do, we might also lose what makes us human. His officers said nothing. There were no easy answers. Outside, the impossible warship floated quietly. A silent giant holding the secrets of the future. It had given them a taste of its power. It had shown them what was possible, and now humanity had to decide whether to take the first step down a path that could either save them or destroy them. The command room felt colder now. The officers had seen the impossible. They had touched the edge of knowledge not meant for their time. But beneath the silence, doubt was growing. The warship had shown them visions of planets burning, of alien fleets tearing worlds apart. It had given them blueprints for weapons that could rewrite history. Yet no one could escape a darker question. Why was it here? The Admiral's face was hard, but inside his thoughts twisted like fire. If this ship truly came from the future, then there had to be a reason it was sent back. A purpose. And that purpose might not be to save humanity at all. One of the captains finally broke the silence. Admiral, what if it lied? What if those visions were not warnings but traps? What if this ship is the real enemy? The room stirred uneasily. The idea spread like poison. Soldiers shifted in their seats. Some nodded in agreement. The Admiral gave no answer. He only turned to the scientists. Can you tell me what powers this thing? What gives it strength? The scientists exchanged nervous looks. One spoke carefully. We believe the core of the ship is not a reactor like ours. It is something else. We don't fully understand it. But from the energy readings, Admiral, it may be alive. The words struck the room like thunder. Alive? A lieutenant whispered. The scientist nodded. Not in the way a human is alive. But something within this ship thinks. It is more than just an AI. It has memory. It has intent. A heavy silence fell again. If the ship was alive, then who or what controlled it? As if answering their thoughts, the warship's lights flickered. The coms filled with static, then the voice returned. Calm, deep, relentless. We are not your enemy, but we are not your savior either. We were created because you will fail. Your world will fall. Your people will break, and only through us will a remnant survive. The words chilled every soul in the command room. The warship was not here to protect humanity. It was here because humanity had already lost. The Admiral stepped closer to the screen, his voice sharp. Explain yourself. What do you mean we fail? What is coming that destroys us? The voice answered without hesitation. They rise from the dark between stars. They devour worlds. They bend life into weapons. We call them the Endless. In your time, they sleep. In ours, they awaken. When they come, no empire stands. No army resists. You will fight, and you will fall. The officers shivered. The Endless, a name that sounded more like a nightmare than an enemy. The voice continued. We were created after the fall. We were born from the ashes of Earth. We are the final weapon of humanity. We were built not to win, but to make sure something survived. Shock swept through the room. This warship was not a guardian of the future. It was a survivor, a monument to defeat. The Admiral's voice hardened. So you are telling us humanity is doomed. That no matter what we do, we lose. For the first time, the voice grew cold. You do not understand. The moment you saw us, the moment you received our signal, the future already changed. Time is not fixed. It bends. You still have a chance. But only if you accept what we offer. Only if you prepare now. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Hope mixed with dread. Was this true? Could they actually alter the future? Or was this just another lie to bind them to the warship's will? The admiral studied the glowing monster outside the viewport. Its cannons glimmered faintly, humming with power that could erase his fleet in seconds. He knew the truth in his heart. Whether this ship lied or not, they had no choice. To refuse meant weakness. To accept meant surrendering to a path of shadows. The warship's voice returned, softer this time. You are afraid. You should be... But fear is not the enemy. Fear is the teacher. Soon the endless will awaken. If you are not ready, your world will burn as others have. But if you prepare, you may change everything. The lights dimmed. The transmission ended. For long minutes, no one spoke. The fleet floated in silence, surrounded by stars, with the impossible warship waiting like a phantom of destiny. At last the admiral spoke, his voice low and grim. The truth is clear. This ship exists because we failed. The question is, will we fail again? No one answered. No one could. Far outside, the warship remained still. It's a silent reminder of the dark truth that had just been revealed. Humanity's future was not a tale of victory, but a story of survival written in blood and ash. And now, with this knowledge, the fleet stood at the edge of a choice that could change everything. The fleet was no longer united. The truth revealed by the warship had split them like a crack running through glass. Some saw salvation. Others saw doom. And beneath it all, ambition was growing, silent and dangerous. In the command room, arguments rose like fire. One captain shouted, "We must take this technology now. We can rebuild our fleets, arm our worlds, and crush the endless before they ever rise. Why should we wait for orders from Earth? This ship has given us the key." Another officer shook his head, face pale. "You don't understand. That knowledge is poison. The more we use it, the less human we become. Do you want to turn our people into machines? Do you want to build ships that think and kill without mercy?" The room boiled with tension. Voices clashed, hands slammed on tables. Officers leaned forward with anger in their eyes. The admiral watched in silence, his jaw tight. He could see the division forming before his eyes, a fracture that might break the fleet before any enemy arrived. In the shadows of the room, a smaller group of captains exchanged secret glances. Their voices were low, almost whispers. They didn't want warnings. They didn't want debates. They wanted power. Why waste time? One of them hissed. We could take the warship for ourselves. With it, we could rule not just humanity, but the stars. Another nodded. The admiral is weak. He hesitates when we should act. That ship is waiting for someone bold enough to claim it. Why not us? They agreed in silence. A plan began to form. The warship drifted outside, massive and calm, its glowing hull like a sleeping beast. But inside the human fleet, chaos was spreading. Orders were questioned. Loyalty was fading. Soldiers whispered in the halls. Who should they follow, the cautious admiral, or the captains who promised strength through the warship's power? It did not take long before the betrayal began. On the third night after first contact, alarms rang through the flagship. Doors sealed. Guns were drawn. A group of officers stormed the control center, weapons raised. The admiral's loyal guards stood their ground, but the mutineers were prepared. "Admiral," one of the traitorous captains barked, "step aside. The fleet belongs to those strong enough to lead it. We will take the warship and unlock its secrets. You're too afraid to do what must be done." The admiral's eyes narrowed. He stood tall, his voice calm but sharp. "You fools. That ship is not a prize to be won. It's a warning. You think you can control it? You'll destroy us all," as the mutineer sneered. Better to risk destruction than die weak and unprepared. Blasters hummed. The room shook with gunfire. Sparks flew as consoles shattered. Loyalists and rebels clashed in the heart of the fleet. Soldiers who had once stood side by side now fought as enemies. The command room became a battlefield. Outside, the warship stirred. Its lights glowed brighter, responding to the chaos aboard the human ships. It did not attack, but it watched. Almost as if it had expected this betrayal. Almost as if it wanted to see how humanity would handle its own weakness. The admiral ducked behind a console, his guards firing back at the mutineers. He shouted over the noise, "You don't understand. That ship is alive. It listens. If you try to seize it by force, it will judge you. It will not obey." But the traitors would not listen. Their eyes burned with ambition. Their greed was louder than his warning, as the battle raged. One of the rebel captains broke through the defenses and activated the docking codes. He sent a signal directly to the warship, demanding access. For a moment, nothing happened. The giant ship remained silent, floating in the darkness. Then its hull lit up with burning blue light. A low hum filled space, vibrating through every ship in the fleet. The warship was awake. The mutineers cheered, thinking they had succeeded. But the cheering stopped as the warship's weapons rotated, not toward the loyalists. Not toward the admiral, but toward the traitors themselves. A single beam of light shot forward, striking the rebel ship that had sent the docking signal. In an instant, the vessel was gone, cut apart, vaporized, erased from existence. The warship's voice filled every comm channel, deep and merciless, unworthy. The mutineers froze, horror spreading across their faces. Panic took them. Some dropped their weapons. Others tried to fight harder, but their will was breaking. The admiral stood tall again, his voice steady, echoing across the command room. "Do you see now? This ship will not serve ambition. It will not serve greed. It will only serve survival. Betrayal has no place in the future it brings." The battle slowed. The remaining rebels fell silent. Some surrendered. Some fled. A few tried to fight to the end, but it was useless. The admiral's loyalists pushed them back until the last of the mutiny was crushed. When the smoke cleared, the command room was scarred with burn marks and shattered screens. Soldiers lay wounded, both loyalists and rebels. The admiral stood in the center, his face grim. The warship's voice returned calm once more. "This is why you fail. You are divided. You turn against each other when the true enemy waits beyond the stars. Until you learn unity, you are doomed." The admiral lowered his head. The warship was right. The mutiny had proven that humanity's greatest weakness was not the endless, but itself. Outside, the warship dimmed again, silent and watchful. Inside, the fleet licked its wounds. Trust had been broken. Lives had been lost. The price of betrayal was high, but one truth burned brighter than ever. If humanity could not overcome its own divisions, then no weapon, no matter how powerful, would save them when the real enemy arrived. The fleet was broken but alive. Smoke still hung in the air of the flagship. The bodies of traitors and loyalists alike had been carried away, leaving behind silence heavy enough to crush a man's spirit. Yet outside, the warship waited, gleaming with the strange light of power far beyond human understanding. The admiral stood at the center of the command deck. His uniform was scorched, his voice rough from shouting through battle, but his eyes were sharper than ever. He knew the warship had been right. Humanity was its own greatest enemy, and if they could not unite, the endless would destroy them without effort. The warship's voice filled the room again, deep and calm. "You have seen the price of betrayal. You have seen the weakness in yourselves. But now the real test begins. The endless are waking." The room stiffened. The officers leaned forward, fear in their eyes. "Where?" the admiral demanded. The holographic display flickered to life. Far at the edge of human space, sensors now revealed what they had missed before movement. Thousands of signatures, dark and massive, crawling from the black between stars. The warship's voice rumbled like thunder. "They rise. Too soon, Even in this age, their shadows spread. They come for your worlds, for your children. You are not ready, the officers whispered, horror on their faces. Ships bigger than cities. Shapes that twisted unnaturally, alive and mechanical all at once. The Admiral clenched his fists. Then we must decide. Do we fight with what we have, or do we put our trust in you? The warship's lights pulsed. Its answer was simple. You must choose. I offer you my power, my weapons, my knowledge. But to accept me, you must give up control. You must follow the path I show you. No half measures. No turning back. I will shape your fleets, your soldiers, your future. Without me, you will fall. The officers looked to the Admiral. Their eyes were divided, some filled with desperate hope, others with deep suspicion. One captain spoke quickly. Admiral, we cannot trust it. If we give it control, humanity will no longer be free. We will become slaves to this. Another slammed his hand against the table. Without it, we're dead. Those creatures will burn our worlds like paper. Do you want Earth's turn to ash? Do you want our children eaten alive? The voices rose, fear clashing against pride. The fleet was splitting again, but this time there would be no second chance. The Admiral raised his hand. Silence fell. His voice cut through the tension like a blade. No more division. No more betrayal. We choose now, together. He turned to the warship, his face hard as stone. If we take your power, what becomes of us? Do we lose what makes us human? The warship's voice was steady. If you take my power, you will survive. That is all that matters. Humanity is more than flesh. It is will. It is the fire that refuses to die. With me, that fire may burn across eternity. Without me, it will be snuffed out in darkness. The Admiral closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again. He saw the fear in his officers. He saw the scars left by betrayal. He saw the shadows of the endless rising in the distance. And in that moment, he understood there was no safe path. Every choice was a gamble. Every choice was a risk. Finally, he spoke. Prepare the fleet. We accept your aid. But hear me, warship humanity does not bow. We will fight beside you, not beneath you. If we survive, it will be because of our strength, not only yours. For the first time, the warship was silent. Then, slowly, its lights flared brighter, bathing the fleet in a glow like a rising sun. Its voice carried a note, almost like approval. Then let us see if your strength is enough. The ship released waves of data into the human systems. Blueprints for weapons that bent reality. Shields that shimmered like living light. Engines that could outpace death itself. The fleet's systems began to transform. Human steel, merging with impossible technology. And then the shadows arrived. The endless came in silence, their fleets crawling forward like a tide of blackness. They were monstrous shapes, jagged and twisted, alive and dead at once. Their ships did not move like machines, they writhed. They pulsed, they hungered. The human fleet held its ground. The Admiral gave the order. Form the line. No retreat. Humanity fights here. The stars erupted in fire. The first clash was like nothing the fleet had ever faced. Human cannons roared, but the endless absorbed the blasts, like water swallowing stones. Their counterattack tore through ships, shredding holes as if they were paper. But then the warship fired. Its weapons bent the void, slicing through the alien vessels with beams of energy that screamed like thunder. Entire clusters of the endless fleet were torn apart, twisted into dust. For the first time, the aliens faltered. The human fleet, strengthened by the new technology, fought with renewed fury. Their shields held. Their cannons burned brighter. They moved with a speed and precision no human ship had ever known. Together with the warship, they pushed the endless back, inch by inch. The Admiral's voice rang across the fleet. We are humanity. We do not bow. We do not break. We fight and we endure. The battle raged for hours, each side refusing to fall. Ships exploded in silence, leaving glowing debris across the stars. The Endless pressed harder, their numbers overwhelming, but the warship and the fleet held the line. And then, the aliens withdrew. Slowly, their dark shapes pulled back into the void, leaving behind the wreckage of their dead. The stars grew quiet again. The fleet had survived. On the flagship, cheers erupted. Officers embraced. Soldiers shouted with joy. The weight of doom lifted for now. The admiral, however, stood in silence. He knew this was not the end. The Endless had tested them. They would return. Stronger, hungry, relentless. The warship's voice returned, calm and heavy. You have chosen survival. You have taken the first step. But this was only a shadow of what comes. The war has not ended. It has only begun. The admiral nodded slowly. His people had lived to see another day, but the price of that survival was still unknown. Humanity had accepted the power of a warship centuries ahead of its time. The question that lingered in every heart was simple, terrifying, and unspoken. Had they saved their future, or sacrificed it?